Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you'll notice, I have a guest. It is Mike DeMira from the Finish Your Wrestling Podcast. And I will have to say about them, they have been one of our biggest supporters. Ever since they came online, I heard about them. And I don't even remember who contacted who first. But either way, I mean, we've had, a pretty good relationship going on. This is I know you've been on here before. I've been on your show before. We've always been or as the way Mike always says it, hey, we are running it back right now. How you doing,
Right.
Mike?
We're running it back. I'm doing all right. How you doing, brother?
Oh, like I said, living the dream, somebody's dream. I don't know whose it is, but it's but I'm living a dream. But as you can
Yeah.
see, Delicious Dwaylen, he's still on a hiatus right now, just taking care of some family business. We always say, family comes first. And we always
Absolutely.
wish our best thoughts and prayers out to Dwaylen, especially since he's about to be a dad again, and so he's getting all ready for that, and so I'm like, hey, you gotta take care of the family. And we've always said family comes first, and we mean that because at the end of the day, this is just a podcast,
Right.
but uh but Mr. Demira here has volunteered to step in as another guest co-host, and we are going to be discussing the Elimination Chamber Perth. And man, and I'll tell you what, that show came on. It started at like the pre-show started at 4 in the morning, and you said you actually got up and watched it.
Yeah. Like, I actually got up an hour before like the kickoff show, the pre-show.
Ooh. So you got up at 3 in the
Yeah,
morning on Saturday.
I did. I did.
What time did you go to sleep?
Probably at like midnight.
I mean, that's a normal Friday night,
Yeah. I went to
So
sleep at like midnight. It possibly it could have been 1 in the morning. I know I was only I know I only got a couple of hours of sleep.
well, I actually because my
I
son
have
had
to
a
finish my wrestling. I have to
you
finish
had
my wrestling.
to there you go. And see, there's the origin of the name, Finish Your Wrestling. Because he had to finish his wrestling. Unfortunately, my son had a Boy Scout event he had to go to, and he had to be there at 8:30 in the morning. So I had to actually, you know, uh, wake up at normal, I guess, time for that. Take him to that. So I actually would have had to stop in the middle anyway. And when I got back, there was still about 20 minutes left. And I was like, well, I better get off of that before I accidentally catch the ending of the last match. And then I had to wait for the replay to be loaded, but finally I was able to watch it. So before we really get started on the review, go ahead and give all the information about Finish Your Wrestling. How do we contact you? All the social media, everything.
Okay. Well, our Twitter X, whatever name it goes by now, the
Twix,
handle
call
Twix,
Twix.
our Twix handle and our IG handle is both the same. It's at FY Wrestling PC. And you can also email us at rekingswrestling@gmail.com.
Cool. So everybody, make sure you contact them. The reason we do that first because Ted the Hillbilly Hill, or now it's Ted's Takes on Wrestling. He's the one who started that. He's another big member of the wrestling podcast community. He's another one. He was actually he was on last week. We did the preview, and so now,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, you got to finish your wrestling. That's why you had the review. So it
Right,
matches up
right.
perfectly. so, so what did you think overall about the show before we start getting into the nitty gritty of the matches?
What I'll say is this: for it to be labeled as an elimination chamber premium live event, it did pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, the the results of and the outcomes of the matches may have been predictable, yet it wasn't predictable to the point where you lost interest. Um, the matches were very entertaining. So even though I was able to predict who was going to win from A to Z, it still kept me entertained.
And you said you got all four the your predictions correct.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3 out of 4. I knew I should have picked, the men's. I knew I should have picked who actually won it, but I don't know why I decided to swerve in a different direction. But Um, so did you know about the pre-show match, the Kabuki Warriors and Candice LeRae
Yeah.
and Indy Hart? I didn't know that was
Uh-huh.
happening until you know came on, and I'm sitting there going, "All right, let me." Like 10 minutes at a time. Wait a minute. Oh, there's a match happening. Hold on.
Hmm.
You know, and the the Australian crowd, oh my lord, they were pretty happy to see Indy Hartwell.
They were. They were. She got a
And
pretty good pump.
oh yeah. and
She got a pretty
um
good pump.
and if I had to predict that match, I mean I would actually would have predicted that outcome the way it happened. They were not going to change the tag titles, at
Yeah.
this. Um Now I don't know who will end up beating the Kabuki Warriors. I see them holding the belts for a little bit. What do you think?
I can see them having a nice run. I think the only team, not the only team, but I think the forerunner, the front runner to taking the titles off them would have to be uh it would probably have to be Alba. I would have said Alba Fire. I would have said her and her partner. I would have, but the women's tag team division is kind of losing. I would have said Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, but they're kind of the women's tag team division is kind of losing its significance in a way because it's not being built up real prominently.
I think Triple H, I have a feeling now he'll actually work on that though, because
Yeah,
he's always been a big supporter of women's wrestling and
absolutely.
able to build it up. So I like to see it. And I just love Alba Fire's name. Just because as soon as I saw that name and I saw the way Fire was spelled, I'm like, she's got to be Scottish. And I looked it up, and sure enough, because Alba is how you say it's in Scots Gaelic. That's the word for Scotland. And I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, I was right. I felt smart for once. um,
No, but I mean, I can see them taking the women's tag team titles. And if it's not them, I feel like they could possibly do something with Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, like they were starting to do. I feel like that is a tag team. If you were to put the Rockets to their backs and push them, I feel like them two as a tag team could really do some heavy damage in the women's tag division.
um, did Zoe Stark, did she just get hurt, or is that somebody else I'm thinking of?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, it may be somebody else, and somebody else just got hurt, which ironically enough, it's like every week somebody's getting hurt, and they're like, "Oh, they're going to have knee surgery. They're going to be out for 6 months." It's like, well, that sucks, So,
Yeah.
um, but when they finally kicked into the show, by the way, did you see the news that the Elimination Chamber itself almost didn't make it to Australia
Make it,
because
yeah, because of the pirates.
pirates?
Yeah.
I was like, that is the most random headline I think I've ever seen, and I had to go click, and they're like, yeah, they flew it to Los Angeles, put it on a boat, or trucked it to Los Angeles, put it on a boat to go like the long way to get to Australia so they could avoid the Suez Canal. I'm like, man, next time have some Navy SEALs with you. They'll take care of it.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, because they
Right.
have. So, but yeah, so they of all the thing pirates almost kept them from actually getting the chamber. But and one of the things I have to mention when Ted was on the show, he and I both totally forgot about it because I sent him a message later on when the Thunderdome, when they actually put it up, or not the Thunderdome, the Elimination Chamber, it looked like Thunderdome out of Mad Max, and I'm like, it's in Australia. They had that. That was the perfect opportunity to make that comparison, and he and I both totally missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're
So
right. You're right.
yeah, so all the young kids, if you're watching, listening, just go check out Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leave, or in this case, 6 men or women enter and only one leaves. Close enough, but either way, I mean, um, but Becky Lynch, she wins the women's elimination chamber over Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Naomi, Raquel Rodriguez, and Tiffany Stratton. I'm gonna tell you what, Tiffany Stratton, they are pushing her, and I can see
Absolutely.
why. I mean, she's good.
Yes. I would say she had the best performance out of all of the competitors in the women's chamber match.
Yeah, I mean, she's trying to prove herself. I mean, she just came up from NXT not that long ago,
Hmm.
so um, she's not going to waste the opportunity. But I mean, but you look in there, out of everybody in there, she's the one with the least amount of experience, and she was really trying hard, man. Because all the women in there, I mean, you look at those names I just mentioned, all of them,
Right.
are top notch. Um, and I'd like to see almost like a lift off between Raquel Rodriguez and Bianca Belair about say who can lift the most because both them women are just powerful.
Powerhouses.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I've seen a video of Bianca, like some of her workout routine, and I'm like, yeah, that's why she can lift as much as what she does because I mean she does not play around. I mean she's a collegiate level athlete, legit.
Hmm.
So I don't know too much about Raquel Rodriguez, but it wouldn't surprise me if she's not a collegiate level. It wouldn't surprise me, if she was one either. You know what I'm saying? But what do you think about the match itself overall? Because I mean, the brutality was there, what you expect. All the moves were there.
Definitely. I'll say this: the one thing that it didn't surprise me that it happened. It kind of it was like a curveball that I was like, okay, they're doing this now, which is the way how Liv Morgan. I was not expecting Liv Morgan to eliminate Bianca. I was expecting Bianca and Becky to be the last two,
Right?
and you know, Liv eliminated Bianca, and then right after that, Big Time Bex came in and
Mm-hmm.
won the match. So to be honest, I was actually expecting Bianca or Bex to eliminate Liv. I wasn't expecting Liv to eliminate one of those two. But the story that they told, ironically, they told their own individual stories in terms of why and how they were trying to win it. And I liked that because Bianca was trying to do everything to ensure her ticket to WrestleMania so she can keep her WrestleMania undefeated streak going. And Liv's story was she was trying to get to WrestleMania. Like she was trying to prove to everybody like she deserves her spot. Very much similar to Tiffany Stratton. And Becky Lynch wanted to prove she was the man that's supposed to take on mommy at WrestleMania.
Yeah. And this was one of the ones because at the Rumble, there was a few people that actually thought Becky was going to win the Rumble because, and even like Dwaylen said, that is the money match. Becky and Rhea Ripley, that's the money
Mm-hmm.
match at WrestleMania. But then, it's pointed out, it's like, well, they already have, they're going to, they don't need the Rumble to have the match. And so that's why, um, Bailey ended up, winning because
Mm-hmm.
she kind of needed that to push that into the match with one of the champions. And she chose, um,
Right.
you know, um, Io Sky.
Io Sky.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and that furthered that story. So I'm like, you know what, WWE, they're doing a really, really good job with their writing right now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because even this, I mean, it looked like they were really pushing Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. Because Naomi just returned and she looks
Right.
as good as ever. She's going to be back in the world title contention herself.
Oh
At
yeah,
some
absolutely.
point. I mean, she's a former world champion already, and but her and Tiffany Stratton, this could be her. Even whoever wins, this feud, they're going to be pushing each other. And Naomi's a good one to help push Tiffany Stratton because Naomi, she's still very credible, even though she just returned, but she's still somebody you're not going to take lightly. And I'm just happy to see Naomi, back because she and her husband can actually be in the same company again. That always drives me nuts when I see married couples. I mean, it's not their fault necessarily when they're in competing
Right.
companies. Um, yeah, make dinner time conversation kind of interesting. But,
Right.
um, the tag team match, the Judgment Day and New Cash Republic. All right, it's a different somebody I actually heard somebody compare it to a Star Wars kind of thing because with the Republic, I'm like,
With the
huh.
Republic name. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Um, I like brutality in wrestling, man. Either very brutal or very scientific or very aerial.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this one I think was pretty brutal with a little bit of science thrown in. Because the New Catch Republic. I mean, I was very impressed by not just them, but really Judgment Day, the tag team moves that both were throwing on the other teams. The combination moves. It reminded me of the Midnight Express because they always had those kind of moves.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. I can see the correlation. I can. Um, you know what though? That's a very interesting analogy right there because you're right. They were performing moves in certain sequences and certain spots that that make you think like, okay, are they paying tribute and homage to the Midnight Express, or were they influenced by them? So I can see it.
Yeah, could have been, and that's actually something else that I'm glad to see tag teams, not just two individuals thrown together, but
Right.
actual tag teams, are starting to get more play because, a certain former CEO uh, didn't like tag teams,
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, but now they're bringing it back because tag team matches are exciting to me.
You're right. No, I'm definitely, definitely. On Finish Your Wrestling, we actually started a tag team vault series. That is strictly about tag team wrestling because we're fans. All three of us are fans of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, we may have been kind of privileged because, I mean, remember the teams like the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, some of the other ones, the
Fabulous
Demolition.
Freebird, yeah, the Demolition,
Yes.
who's
Oh,
one of my
man.
favorite. Demolition to me, honestly, Demolition, and I've shared this with you before. Demolition is one of my favorite all-time tag teams, and they had one of the classic, the most classic. They had one of the most classic theme songs ever.
Dun, 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 dun. Here comes the axe, and here
And here
comes the
comes the Smasher.
smasher.
Yeah, Demolition was. I mean, the Demolition to me, and I've said this a million and one times to wrestling fans, Demolition were not knockoffs of the Road Warriors. That was the Powers of Pain, not Demolition.
Very true. Yep.
Uh, even from the face paint to the haircuts that the Powers of Pain had were very similar to the Legion of Doom to the Road Warriors. Demolition were their own thing. But like you said, tag teams like Demolition, Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express. You had the Fabulous Freebirds, Devon Erics. Like you had a plethora of tag teams. I mean, even the British Bulldogs and the Hart
Mm-hmm.
Foundation. And when I say Hart Foundation, I'm talking about the Hitman, the Anvil, with the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, like
Yep.
that tag team.
There's
Even the
something like
Brand
that.
Busters,
The Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. This
the
right here.
Megaphone.
Yes, sir. I bought this a few months ago. He was actually at a show local. And if you look, I mean, there's his autograph. He drew all those hearts on there, and,
Wow.
and then he autographed it. And I was like, cool. I mean, and then I got yelled at by my wife for buying it. But you know what? I got an autographed megaphone. Now I'm not going to hit anybody with it because no, my luck could probably break the megaphone. But yeah, yeah, I've been kind of fortunate to be honest with you. I've been able to go. In fact, I'm going here in a few weeks to another fan fest in Chillicothe, Ohio. Except for me and I got Rescue Randy. I don't know if you've heard the shows with him on there, watched them. He and I are actually going to be going into actually help out.
Okay.
So yep. So Big Mama from the Northern Wrestling Federation, she's been doing some spots for the NWA. She actually was able to arrange that for us. So
Okay.
um, but yeah, the last one I actually met the guys from Demolition, and I got a picture taken and all that, and they actually don't do podcasts, but they said not because last time they did a podcast, they had to get their lawyers involved. They didn't go into details why, but I was like, all right, it's kind of
Yeah.
yeah, and but they had one of the masks, with the spikes on it and
Uh-huh.
the leather thing behind it. They had one left and they were selling it autographed like $200, and I'm like, I don't have $200. I'm not, I wish, but I don't have that. But once again, most of the wrestlers I've met have actually all been pretty cool. Barbarian, actually, him and Ming, they were there, and the picture I got with them, Ming's actually choking me out, because well, that's what he does. And but Barbarian, I mean, it's kind of funny because you see him, and you're right. When I remember when he first came into the Mid Atlantic area because I actually talked about this with him because he said, "Oh, I was so nervous," He said because he did a run in. The assassin had actually became a face for a little bit, and Barbarian actually did a run in and attacked the assassin. He did like the flying headbutts, and I'm like, is that really where your animal just shrunk like 6 inches because he had the same haircut and he had the face paint and everything? And I thought it was animal, but just a little smaller. But no, it was the Barbarian. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, like you said, the tag team wrestling. I'm glad it's starting to make a comeback. I thought this match was really good. I wasn't surprised at the ending because I don't think they're ready to drop the titles yet. Now, I was surprised that there was nothing to kind of push forward the tension between Damian Priest and the rest of the Judgment Day. You know, now and actually, uh, what's his nose? Oh, your buddy, big ex-con
Dirty
Dom,
Dom.
Dirty Dom.
Dirty Dom.
Of course, he got sent out, but he's saying that the boos that are coming, he said they're not piped in. He said that is the audience just letting him have it. I
Yeah,
mean,
like when I could say I can honestly say this. Being present at shows
that's right,
that
you
he's
did.
on,
Yeah.
yeah, being present at shows that he's there, they legitimately boo him. Like Dom generates old school classy Freddie Blassie heat.
Hmm. They better be
Like
careful
literally.
because Freddie Blassie got stabbed one time.
He got actually for Freddie Blassie got the fans stabbed him up and they threw acid on him.
Ooh.
Yeah. And when I tell you Dom generates that type of heat, trust me, Dom generates that type of heat. Like this isn't an exaggeration or an analogy to make a comparison. No, he literally generates old school classy Freddie Blassie heat.
um, I bought the Person Illustrated uh awards issue. I have actually not even read it yet, but I'd be willing to bet that if he didn't get most hated wrestler, he had to have been at least one of the runner up.
No, he definitely got
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, when he comes out and you know what? He relishes it because they're booing him, and that means he's doing his job correctly.
Correct.
I mean, he turned on his own dad, and his dad is Rey Mysterio, one of the most likable characters ever.
Well, I'm not gonna say he turned on his dad. His dad abandoned him. His
All
dad
right.
abandoned him. Like his dad chose Edge, who's now Adam Copeland in AEW. His dad chose him over Dirty Dom to be his partner. Think about this. Dirty Dom has had a hard life. He did hard times. Okay. All right. He is a rags to riches story. He went from being an ex-con to now he is a two-time NXT North American champion.
Two
Two
time.
times. Two times. All right. Like he's a rags to riches story. He's an
Oh,
inspiration to these kids.
and he is rocking that mullet.
He is. He is.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little thing about mullets. Right now I got the skullet. You
The
know,
skullet.
the skullet. Because there ain't nothing up here. I mean, that left a long time ago. So I just grow it out now. That's the skullet. Or you are
Dom is actually playing the route. He's actually going the route that Eddie went.
okay, yeah, yeah. Because
If you think about it, because Eddie had China as his mamacita and Dirty Dom has Rhea as his mommy. And they both were rocking the mullets during that time
yep.
period. And yeah, you can tell that Dom is influenced by Eddie. You can tell it.
Maybe on the times when Dom had the visitation going over to Eddie's house on the weekends. You know,
Maybe
when they when they
because
they
that
were
is his
trying
China.
to get all that straightened out. you know,
Maybe
uh,
I can see it.
Now if Dom could
Um,
just grow some facial hair a little bit, right? Because he does need to kind of work on that some. I mean that looks like a seventh grader. Who's just learning how to shave right now.
yeah, he's struggling to grow facial hair. He's
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah, I don't have that
Yeah.
issue right now. Finally. But yeah, I like that match. And then of course they had the men's elimination chamber. Yes, I chose LA Knight, and I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. I mean,
Why did you choose LA Knight?
honestly, I thought Drew would be too obvious,
Okay.
and LA Knight was like the next one. Say, okay, if it's not going to be Drew, because by the way, Drew is also finishing his story. We're talking all about Cody. They're labeling it finishing his story. Well, Drew's trying to finish his own story because he's been screwed over so many times. He finally gets his big WrestleMania match, and there was 0 people in the audience because of COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
he finally gets another match in. What they keep saying it's his hometown. No, they were in Cardiff, Wales. That's a good 5-6 hour drive away from the
Mm-hmm.
Ayrshire district of Scotland where he's from. I mean, it's a long way. I've been there. I've been to both actually. So lived in England for 6.5 years. So I mean that whole thing. And by the way, there's no straight shot. I mean, yeah, driving in the UK is fun, but they keep saying, well, hometown. No, he's Scottish. He ain't Welsh, and they'll let you know. But close enough. I mean, he had more people going to cheer for him, and that's when Solo Sikoa made his debut and cost him the title. So he's got that going on, which justifies him being a heel in his own eyes. He's like, look, I keep getting screwed over, so of course I'm going to do what I need to do to get my title. But to me, it was almost, it's like, well, it's too. And I love Drew McIntyre. He's one of my favorites. But it was like almost too obvious because I was looking at it going, I was like, all right, Bobby Lashley right now. I'd love to see Bobby Lashley get another run, but right now they got him with oh my God, why am I losing
Karrion
them?
Cross?
No, I'm the tag team.
The Street Profits.
Street Profits, yes. He's got them together, and I like to see them build up as a faction because they keep, they've had Bobby Lashley start factions and then all of a sudden they collapse. It started to collapse, and like, y'all need to do something because Bobby Lashley is too good of a talent to just let kind of flounder. So they finally got him with the Street Profits. Bobby Lashley, former Army, Montez Ford, former Marine. So they already got that going on, and so that could be a very formidable team. I don't know if they might add one more person, maybe, because a lot of times you good factions usually have 4, or you could go with 3 because of Freebirds, were 3. But
very true.
Yeah, so I mean they got that with them, so I mean they could be building that up. So Kevin Owens, I can't really see holding the title right now, but LA Knight, I mean he's the hottest thing in Sunburn right now, and and of course Orton, I don't think they're going to put the title back on Orton anytime soon. It's not right for right now, and and Logan Paul, I mean, they're not going to put the world title on him. He's got the U.S. title, and he's doing good. I will say that. I mean, I've been very impressed by Logan Paul because he takes it very seriously. And, so, but I was like, well, Drew McIntyre, that's just too obvious. And that just proves once again that I'm stupid. So I should have just picked McIntyre like everybody else, and I wouldn't have been wrong, but I was wrong on that one.
See, I picked Drew McIntyre because I felt like even though it would have been too predictable for him, I felt like it made sense for him to win just because if anybody knows a thing or two about wrestling, they pay attention to the history of it. Drew McIntyre, this current run of him as a heel is very similar to Bret Hart.
It is
very similar.
Yep, because Bret kept getting screwed.
Correct. Bret got screwed out of the '97 Rumble.
Yep.
Then Bret won the not fatal 4, but the final 4 match that they had and he won it for the vacant belt. That's when Shawn, lost his smile.
Yeah.
And then the next night, Bret got screwed out of the championship and Austin hit him with the chair. Then Bret had his rematch against Sid in the steel cage, and Undertaker screwed Bret when he slammed the door on Bret. So Bret's frustrations kept building up, and Drew McIntyre's character is very similar to Bret's character in terms of getting screwed out of championship matches.
One more thing, contract negotiation. Because remember, Bret was going through that, and that's what ended up being the catalyst for the Montreal Screwjob. Now, Drew is going through, actual contract negotiations as well.
Correct.
So
And so I felt like what better play than to have Drew McIntyre finally get his WrestleMania match with the crowd there, even though he technically already had it when he fought Bobby Lashley, because they did have the crowd in there. They did have the crowd. It was like 15,000, but they didn't have the full WrestleMania crowd there.
right.
So with that being said, what better way than to have Drew McIntyre finally get his moment? He beat Seth, only for Priest to cash in on Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, because they need to do something with Priest like soon. Because when Punk came back, and then Cody, of course, finishing his story, and
Mm-hmm.
then Rock now, of course, is in the picture and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
Damien's holding this briefcase, like, "Hey, you guys remember me?" I mean, um,
But isn't that the point? Like, think about this. People are so used to, well, if you think about it, the last few years, the Money in the Bank holder hasn't held hasn't held the briefcase for that long.
true.
So with this right here, it's a combination of two things. One, the past few winners haven't held the briefcase for a substantial time. That's one. And two, the type of talent and character that Damian Priest is making fans anticipate his cash in more and more. Like fans are like, you should have been cashed in because you're Damian Priest. And I think that's why a lot of people are waiting to see when is the trigger going to get pulled. I believe Priest and Finn lose the tag titles early on at night one at WrestleMania to R-Truth and Miz. And then later on that night, Priest cashes in against the winner of Seth and Drew McIntyre.
So yeah, okay, yeah, that definitely would be the first night match. I was thinking, no, second last night's going to be Cody and Roman. That's pretty much a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I could see them losing the tag titles, splitting up. Like right then, Damian turns face, and then throws a briefcase down on whoever is the winner of that match. And
Mm-hmm.
watch it, like you said, watch it be Drew, and turn around and he's world
Mm-hmm.
champion again for all of 2 minutes, and boom, done.
Right.
I'll tell you what, just the thought of Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest having matches against each other, those would be some good matches, I think. You know, um, just think about, these two big guys with a lot of skills, the way they do. Those would be some nice, brutal, hard hitting matches. You still with me?
Right. No, I'm still here with you.
Okay. Yeah, your screen froze up. So as long as you can hear me. So, um, but,
Okay.
yeah, my phone all of a sudden it locked up too. So, the last match of the night, Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax. No surprise there. They were not going to let Rhea Ripley lose in her home country, especially with her family right there.
Not at all.
Right, with her family right there at ringside.
Can you hear? Oh, I'm back. I'm back. I had a slight difficulty problem.
All right, cool. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm back. Yep, I can hear you.
All right, awesome. But yeah, with her family right there at ringside, like 13 family members at ringside, she was not going to lose that. There was no way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No, they wasn't gonna let her lose at all, and it wouldn't have made sense for her to lose. Um, because think about it, they're building up to Rhea versus Becky at WrestleMania 40, and that's the money match.
that is the money
So
match.
I believe Nia Jax and Rhea. I believe Nia Jax and Rhea it served the purpose for two things. One, to give that go home feeling from Australia, well, to Australia, because they don't go there often. So you want to have it where, okay, you're making this Elimination Chamber event feel big. So what better way than to have one of Australia's own close out the show with a victory involving one of the show's top women's titles. So you put that into play. and it also adds more to the story in terms of Rhea versus Becky because yeah, Becky may have won the Elimination Chamber, but Rhea had to go through Nia Jax, who was very much a hard obstacle for Becky to topple.
And the way they had Rhea, they showed it throughout the match, because I mean, Rhea's not small herself. I mean, she's taller, but Nia, of course, I mean, is known for being, kind of a bigger lady. Well, Rhea was able to get her in her pump handle slam that she does and pinned her clean. And that right there was a feat in itself, getting Nia up and boom. And so that's kind of showcasing that. And of course, Nia, putting her over like that, and selling it for her. I mean, I got to give kudos to her too, because um, she didn't have to do that, but I mean, she does business, and Nia's professional. I mean, now she's been known for, unfortunately hurting people, but I mean, she's not like she did it on purpose, but I mean, she was still just in a main event of one of their biggest pay-per-views or PLEs of the year, so they wouldn't have trusted just anybody to do that. And so Nia, I think, was the best woman to be the opponent. And like you said, yeah, you're right. And it gets Rhea ready for Becky, and now I don't know what's going to happen with Nia next. I mean, I knew they'll find something for her, but but I like the match. I liked all these matches. I mean, it was a very solid show.
What if the plan is to have Jade go against Nia instead of Bianca?
You know what?
Because if you
Yeah.
think about it,
Yep.
the way how Elimination Chamber went, it left more. It gave us some answers, but it gave us a lot of questions to be asked.
Yeah. That would actually be good. Like the good first feud for Jade coming into WWE would be against Nia, because it'd be too soon. You want to build up to her and Bianca, because we know that's also going to be another money feud right there. That's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
good one. So yeah, Nia would be a good first one.
Yeah, because think about it, the story is they already planted the seeds there for that particular story. Jade came at the Rumble, debuted at the Rumble, eliminated Nia Jax. So you could have that powerhouse versus powerhouse match
Yep. And
because it would be too soon to do Jade versus Bianca, and it would you don't want to rush a feud like that because for starters, you would lose out a lot of money if you rush that feud. You
mhm.
have to let it build. You have to let that feud build. You have to. The same way they let Becky and Rhea build, you have to let this. You have to let those two build.
I'm looking forward to that match whenever it finally does happen. I don't care if it's, next month, year from now, 2 years from now, Jade and Bianca. That's going to be that's going to be a good one to watch.
True. However, I won't be surprised. If I won't be surprised if they do rush it in the sense of Bianca versus Jade. I won't be surprised if they do rush it because this is WrestleMania 40, so they're throwing everything in.
Yeah, because yeah, they're also trying to clean up after everything that just went down over the past few months, and they're trying to build themselves back up into a pretty good reputable company, because unfortunately, not all the WrestleManias of the past few years have been good ones, and so with Triple H now, hopefully he can stay on, but since he's part of that family, who knows? Um, don't know what's going to happen there, but I mean, but they put on solid product. This was another solid show, top to bottom, and we were talking about the Pirates. Then there was a couple other, yeah, a couple other news stories that I just saw this one today. Apparently, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller were about to throw down on a reporter. Did you see that?
Yes, at the airport.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. That what wasn't it because the reporter was saying like wrestling was fake or something?
yep.
See, here's the thing. He's lucky he said that to them and not Haku
Woo.
Um, because here's the thing, and this is something that I've always said to people: professional wrestling is not fake; it's scripted. It's no different
Bam.
than acting in a TV show or a movie or a play, except for the fact that when you have a television show and a movie, the actors have stunt doubles. In professional wrestling, they don't have stunt doubles because they are the stunt doubles. They are one take actors. That is what they are.
Yep.
And people don't understand nor do they appreciate how much these individuals put their bodies on the line.
And
Like, mm-hmm.
yeah, I was going to say, yeah, because Haku, I mean, he, the way he explained in the interview, he said, "This is how I feed my family. You're not going to come
Right.
insult my chosen profession of how I take care of my family, how I feed my kids, and think that you're just going to get away with it." You
Mm-hmm.
know, and yeah, so I mean, yeah, and Grayson Waller apparently, I mean, went off on the dude too, and you know, and also found out why Bronson Reed why he didn't go because he finally cleared the air on that. The reason he didn't go was because his wife was getting ready to have a baby, and she was actually going to labor. They knew that she was going to be induced early, so he didn't want to be all the way back in Australia, and all of a sudden his wife is in America giving birth. You know, can't blame him there. Like we said, family comes first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I'm actually going to have to go ahead and wrap this up though, because I mean, man, we done covered all the matches, done covered all the news, and so is there anything going else with Finisher Wrestling, by the way, before we have to wrap this up? Because I want to make sure
Um,
I want everybody to know about one of my favorite wrestling podcasts. You know, great
yeah,
analytical minds, and you and Bink and the man of many names. We'll just call him Stevie Ray Cyrus, Tony Atlas Shrugged. Uh, I mean, I don't know where he comes up with all these names, but I'm just like looking forward to hearing them or seeing them or, just uh,
I'll tell you this much. I'll tell you this much. This is what happens. How he chooses the names. Okay, so before we record, he goes through the list of names that he's already used, and then he looks at wrestling names that he has not. He looks at like a list of wrestlers' names that he hasn't used at all, and then he tries to figure out which one will fit whatever starting topic or ending topic we're gonna
ah,
have.
gotcha.
Or if I tell him like, hey, this is gonna be the tag team vault series, or or I'll be like, yo, listen, we might touch up on this or that, and then he'll be like, okay. And then right before we press record, you see the wheels in his mind turning, and then as soon as I say this is finishing wrestling, that's when the name comes out. Um, yeah, he has a different name, and sometimes he's actually switched names during episodes.
I was on one of those episodes when he did it.
You were, because the one name was he started off with one name, then midway into it, it was Matt Morgan Freeman.
Yes, that was the one.
Yeah, it was Matt Morgan Freeman, and but what this is what I'll say about Finisher Wrestling. What you can expect is we are going to be attending more live shows from different promotions, whether it's local, your local independent, all the way up to mainstream. We are going to be attending more shows this year, and we are in the process of we're going to be transitioning from only audio to audio and video. We're going to be
Awesome.
doing that as well. And so there's a few other things. Be on the lookout for our 80s Wrestling Vault series and our 90s Wrestling Vault series. Be on the lookout for those two because we already have the Tag Team Wrestling Vault series. So we have a few different spin-off series that we're going to be doing,
Okay.
and it's more so because see, and the reason why is I feel like nowadays when people watch wrestling, they don't necessarily understand just how much the past comes back full around with the present. And
Yes, it
so
does.
and also a lot of storylines and a lot of characters and a lot of character arcs and gimmicks. Also, not many people notice, but you can go to the past and be like, okay, well, this person had to be influenced by this wrestler from past days, or there's a similar correlation between this current wrestler and this wrestler of yesteryears. Prime example, like we said, Drew McIntyre and Bret Hart. And not many people notice that. You can even with Triple H being the ringleader of Evolution, you can tell to some merit, to some degree, Ric Flair being the leader of the Four Horsemen influenced Triple H because Triple H wore his influences on his sleeve. Like you can
Yeah, he did.
tell, you can tell that Harley Race, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, superstar Billy Graham, you could tell that those individuals influenced him by far. So yeah, we have different podcasts, like we have different spin-offs getting ready to come out because 80s wrestling, I don't feel like it gets I feel like it's starting to. I feel like 80s wrestling and 90s wrestling, it's starting to lose. Uh, not lose, but how should I put it? Everything evolves, and so it's just like when people talk about basketball, people will talk about the Bulls and the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and they will talk about LeBron and the Golden State Warriors, but you don't hear many people talk about the Boston Celtics of the 80s with Larry Bird and Showtime Lakers with Magic and Kareem.
Oh,
And so
you're talking
and
my
they
era.
and you don't
My era right there.
yeah and you don't hear many people talk about the bad boy Detroit Pistons. So I feel like with these spin-off series it would be an interesting way to keep certain things refreshing and as a memory to newer fans and older fans.
You know what? I'm looking forward to that. So once that kicks off, I'm gonna have to make sure I keep an eye on that because you're talking the 80s and 90s wrestling. That's right there. That's hitting me
Yeah,
right there. So um, yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to seeing the videos. And you're always looking to come back on here, and hopefully, I can come on there. We can just keep this going. We just keep running it back over and over again. We just keep the cycle
yeah.
going.
Well, speaking of that, I was gonna offer you this invitation on your platform right now, which is how would you feel about being a guest on the 80s and 90s Vault series?
Oh heck yeah, you know that.
All right. And also, when our brother Dwaylen returns, I would like for you and him to be our tag team guests for the tag team Vault series.
All right, cool. So I'm hoping Joellen can come, and even if he's able to make a one-time appearance, we'll just have to. Hopefully, he can.
Mhm.
And now it may not be for a while because once a baby's born, he's not going to be able to sleep for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. You don't get hardly any
Hmm.
sleep. Um,
You're right.
but I know he would love to do it if he's able to make it. So I
You're
definitely
right.
appreciate the invitation and just let me know when, and I would do my best. Now I have to figure out a schedule because because like I said, it's kind of amazing when you don't have a job how busy you can be. Because I'm running this one and I'm running my other podcast, the Cubicle Chat podcast, the non wrestling. I'm doing that one every day right now, every day of the week, or every
Yeah.
weekday, I should say. But
Yeah.
that what I mean, because I sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. It's just a matter of just keeping it going and me keeping my sanity. So I'm just not just sitting here looking for jobs, because I mean I've applied for so many jobs, and that's a frustrating thing. But that's a story for another day. But hopefully I'll find something soon. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mike Demira from the Finisher Wrestling Podcast. Definitely go
Right.
check them out. I mean, if you heard, this is just a sampling of the analytical mind this man has when it comes to wrestling. So I've been listening to their podcast ever since it came out, and so I'm like, man, I even told Joel in the first time, I was like, we got to get those guys on our show because I mean,
Yeah.
you have a lot of good analytical minds, and wrestling analysis going on, and I'm
Yeah.
like, man, he's thinking of things that I never even would have thought of thinking of,
Yeah,
and
like I had to reach out to y'all because y'all were talking about the AWA and Vern Gagne,
that's
and
what it
then y'all
was.
were
Yep.
also talking about Jim Crockett and the NWA, and I was like, hey, even though I'm young, that's my era because I grew up with and I told you I had two TVs in the house. So like that. So when y'all were talking about that, I was like, okay, I have to reach out to these guys. I'm like, I'm gonna reach out to them. And ironically, uh my favorite tag team match in WCW history, Super Brawl 1, Luger and Sting versus the Steiner brothers.
Yeah. Hard hitting, brutal, but with a lot of good wrestling in there, like a lot of good science, like real wrestling moves as well. Because all those,
Yeah.
Luger, I guess, when we consider the weaker of them, but I mean, Luger could still go when he needed to, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, so go check out Finisher Wrestling on any audio platform. I believe, yeah, you're on about every audio platform there is, aren't you? Yeah,
Yep.
so, and keep a lookout. They're going to be probably on YouTube here soon. Just like we finally got this show. It took a little bit, but we finally got this one on YouTube, and now, um, now we've got quite a few episodes. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. If you're listening, for this podcast one the first time, make sure you subscribe to this one. Make sure you go subscribe, follow Finisher Wrestling. Leave us all ratings, and if you can leave us a review, leave us a review. That helps with the algorithm, or as Ted calls it, the logarithm. Also go check out BC Hunter and Wrestling with the 80s, or Wrestling with the 80s. He's mostly 90% on YouTube now. Go check out Ted's Takes on Wrestling. Go check out the Dad World Order podcast. Go check out TNC Sports Talk. He does a lot of other sports, but he also does wrestling as well. Good friend of mine, Justin. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing somebody. And if I miss anybody, I apologize. But thank you, Mike, for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Yep. Until we can talk. Brother. Oh, awesome. Until we can talk again, my friend, got to say good night and God bless.